Hello DevOps people, welcome to my live coding stream. I'm Jochen, welcome. Um, yeah, if you're new to the stream, I'm happy to have you here. If you are a regular, great to have you here again. On this stream, I'm doing mostly Ruby development and some kind of DevOpsy stuff. Hey Slayer Darth, that's great. You've made it in time to the stream. That's awesome. I'm doing fine. It's the last work week of the year. You are on holidays this week. Feels good, man. Yeah, definitely. I still have to do a few more days of work, but it's been very good so far. I'm happy at the moment. The weather here in Ireland has been terrible over the recent days, so sitting inside and doing some coding was the best option I had, and I actually did. And you're staying at home and working on side projects. Yeah, that's awesome. I love your side projects. And you seem to be having a lot of fun. Let me try something here. I just got something new. Let me see. So maybe God is inflicting bad weather on the Irish for their sins. Well, then he's pretty late, I guess, because the weather only turned bad 2 or 3 weeks ago. But no, I think it's more that we are paying for a good summer. But yeah, well, it's this time of the year when the weather is not as clement as we maybe would like to. I don't care. I'm sitting inside in an office all day anyway. Although the weather often keeps me from going outside and grabbing a coffee at Starbucks or something. So yeah, still it's all pretty chill and I'm fine. Oh, that's awesome. You can see that you got a new icon there, Slayer. Welcome to the stream VIPs, man. Happy to have you here. Okay, that's my Christmas gift to you. So, as most of you probably know, I've started a open source software especially for this stream, so I can start from scratch developing, deploying and operating something, and this software that I've started has the name Jupyter. It's on GitHub under gvis/Jupyter, and it's supposed to become a management software for IT resources, servers, AWS instances and things like that. So basically that you get a unified dashboard that allows you to manage all the stuff you have running. I'm in web operations, so we do a lot of stuff on on-premise machines as well as cloud-based instances. And no, it's not a Jupyter notebook. It has nothing to do with Jupyter notebooks, although they are pretty impressive. I have to admit I haven't found a use for them in my daily business, but nonetheless, they are very impressive. No, Jupyter stands for Jochen's Uber Productive IT Environment Registry, and so it's supposed to become some kind of management software for our IT environments. And what I've done so far is create a model for servers that run at the bare metal provider Hetzner. and I've built an import job that is able to import a current list of servers and update the Jupyter database from this list. In my last session, I've started to build a deployment. The issue here was this one. And I struggled quite a bit setting everything up to deploy it to our quite new Kubernetes cluster, mainly because our cluster is an on-premise cluster. It's not based on Amazon or Google Cloud. With an on-premise cluster, for example, providing storage space that is robust is quite a bit harder, while on the cloud-based Kubernetes clusters you simply request storage space and you get it, and the provider handles everything. You're too tired to read. What does Jupyter actually do? Not much so far, but I'll explain it in a minute. Let me just finish my thought here. What I realized is that once again I made the mistake of making a decision too early. In this case, the decision to deploy to Kubernetes. All I wanted was having a staging instance that I can launch and access from the web, and setting myself a goal of doing this on Kubernetes was just too much to ask, and so I'll change this to set up staging deployment. That's what I wanted, without specifying what I wanted to do. And as you can see in this browser tab here, I decided to go the quick way and simply deploy my Rails app to Heroku for the time being. I can switch to Kubernetes at any time if I like and see the need to, but that shouldn't hold me up getting more functionality into the application. I don't want to spend days now getting it running on Kubernetes if I can get it running on Heroku within minutes. Yes, it is a Rails app, and what it's supposed to do is fetch data from all the infrastructure providers that you use, be it AWS or Google Cloud or DigitalOcean or Hetzner, for example, and pull in all the information about your computing instances or bare metal servers or things like that, and make it easy to manage them in a unified dashboard. So you don't have to go to your DigitalOcean UI to manage your droplets, and then you go to the Hetzner robot to manage your servers and stuff like that. I want to have a single software, a single application that displays everything, where I can drill down and filter stuff, where I can tag servers, for example, with certain labels and things like that. So at some point in the future, it'll make things easier for our actual ops team. But for the time being, it's just a learning project with a more or less aspirational use case. Let's put it that way. Yeah, exactly. Basically manage everything for our servers from a single dashboard, starting with a list of my servers, and then I'd like to be able to click on a server and reboot it, for example, or I want to push a button and get a new server from the provider I've chosen, without having to go to every single provider's website to do these things. Similar to Laravel Forge. I have no idea what Laravel Forge is, but let me see what it is. Oh, I guess, yeah. So that's more or less a platform. No, it's not a platform necessarily. Yeah, well, provision and deploy unlimited PHP on digital, AWS and more. Okay, so it's similar. It's similar. It's not going to be limited to a certain application or runtime. In this case, PHP. It's more infrastructure level. So just see my servers and see my droplets and see my EC2 instances and all that stuff and do things with them. As I mentioned, for example, one idea would be I'd like to be able to tag servers with a certain project, for example. I might run droplets and bare metal servers in parallel on the same project. One provider might offer me to add tags to a computing instance and the other provider doesn't. So how do I correlate the servers? With Jupyter, I will be able to do that and say, okay, this project consists of 3 bare metal servers and say 10 AWS instances that are more or less dynamic. Yeah, but we are not that far into the project yet. So what I'd like to do today is get the application running in the staging instance here on Heroku, and then maybe get CI integration set up so that when I do a push to master, it gets automatically deployed to the staging instance, and then I can simply push this button or launch a command that then will promote this application to the production application. Forge lets you edit config files through their site. You should do that for Jupyter as well. Yeah, something like that. Well, I can build in everything I like. I could, for example, also integrate our chef server and associate a certain run list with the application, with a server and things like that. Bootstrapping, all that stuff can be possible. And we can build up a long issue queue here with ideas and user stories. So if there's something you'd like to suggest, simply go into the Jupyter issue queue and try and write a user story. As a user, I'd like to be able to edit the server config file or things like that. It's an open source project, so feel free to collaborate here. Right, so issue 3 will be set up a staging deployment. I'd also like to do a cleanup job, namely getting rid of the resource models that I created before. That was another decision I made too early, trying to build an abstract model schema that can accommodate everything. Let's do that when we need it. You can delete everything in the repo, do a git add asterisk git commit refactoring. Yes, you can do that. You can fork the repository. You can send pull requests. Everything you'll do to keep me busy. If it's going to be still my decision if I how far I will humor you. Okay, so let's get this deployment done first, so we can see it running on the web. What I need for this is I need a Postgres database. I should add a proc file. Oh, I should even just push the application to to Heroku, so Heroku even knows what it's going to deal with. But yeah, let's simply create a new proc file. I don't mind this. There is already a proc file, which is handy. And it also already runs Puma and even starts the async workers. That's awesome. So I should be able to simply git push staging master. But wait, yeah, okay. As you see, I have set up the staging repository I've associated that with Heroku, so I can simply do git push staging master. It's going to build it with Ruby using 2.5.1. Is that the version we had selected? Ruby version 2.5.1, yeah. While this is deploying, we can already take a look at the cleanup job. So there are a lot of models, resourcey stuff that I'd like to get rid of. And there are controllers associated with these models. All the stuff that starts with resource and the provider model on top can go, because if at all, we'll need it later, but not now, and it'll just add technical debt. So let's get rid of that. Pre-compiling assets failed. Why did it fail? Is there anything we should do? Let's start. Let's try this again. I lost the error message there because I started tmux. You've never worked with Rails much, mostly pure Ruby and Sinatra. Well, if you're used to Sinatra, making the jump to Rails shouldn't be too difficult. Rails just comes with a lot more things, many of them very handy, some of them you might never need. For example, action cable for continuous WebSocket communication and things like that. Not every web application will need this. But I try and focus on one solution for one problem. So I use Middleman for static websites. I use Rails for more sophisticated websites. And I use pure Ruby for CLI applications. And that way I have 3 kinds of Ruby applications that I can use for their respective use case. So let's see. Something broke. Okay, key not found, SMTP address. We need to set up a few more environment variables to make the application work. That's right. Okay. So in .env we have a few more things. So we need, here we got SMTP address, domain, password, username, concurrency, and the Hetzner server API user and password. We won't need the Hetzner API variables right away, but obviously the SMTP address needs to be set at least. Well, I'm going to use SendGrid for sending email. So let's just see if I can find the setting for the SMTP address, even though when I don't enter the credentials right away it won't work, but I guess I can get it to work with the SMTP address alone. I just need the application to spin up, so... Okay, I'll have to set up Action Mailer with certain things here, so it's smtp sendgrid.net. Let's go into the settings of this application. Okay, so I'll use the command line to set this, which is Heroku. Config. Config set. Okay, so I'll do Heroku, and we'll use the staging remote. Config set SMTP address equals SMTP sendgrid. It's not a Heroku command. No, I did not. Maybe I need to add it here, or at the end even. Staging. Let's try another push. We've made a bare bones new CMS in Sinatra recently, using Active Record. You always hated it when you tried to Google something in Ruby and all the results were for Rails. Yeah, that's I guess that comes with the popularity. And I really like developing with Rails. It's very thought through. It has its idiosyncrasies, and that's intentional. THH is very, as the word goes, opinionated, and that's what Rails is as well. But I can follow the decisions they've made, and that should be okay. And I'm happy with the decisions all the way they went. So another thing, what SMTP domain is broken. Okay, I need to set a few more things here. Okay, so let's set everything. SMTP domain. What does that even mean? Oh, that's my domain. Okay. I guess we write under fsunit.net. Let's set dummy user account and password. So At least it'll be happy. Can't imagine that it needs to be mail delivery to be working in the so it's probably just they need it set. He comes from the land of good pastry. Oh yeah. I love raisin Danish. Raisin Danish. In fact, I should get some after this stream. My local supermarket has them, and I always buy them in pairs. As one can see, my wife would add. Oh, come on. It's username. So let's set this one. And then we need a config remove or something. Not the SMTP user. Unset. Are there any cool Irish foods I have discovered? I don't think so, to be honest. Most of the traditional Irish food isn't too vegetarian, which I am, mostly. And I say mostly because I do eat fish. But yeah, soda bread is pretty common, and I do like it. It's very different from what I had known from German bread, but I do like the soda bread as well. And let me think if there's anything else. Well, Christmas pudding is something we didn't have back in old Germany, but I pretty much like, as everything sugary. But other than that, Irish stew and all these things simply don't fit my diet. Okay, I'm about to. Okay, application host. I really need to take a look at this application host. Okay. Config set application host. For the time being will be f7 Jupiter staging.heroku.com, I think, or herokuapp.com. Here we go, Jupiter staging, herokuapp.com. See, even with Heroku it isn't that straightforward. I still stumble a lot here, but doing this with a Kubernetes setup that I'm not that I don't have as much routine with as with Heroku would take many times more time. Why does no one like German sausage? Because they are the worst. Yeah. Yep. That's correct. And now, come on. Don't fail on me again. Not bad. These warnings are a bit disconcerting, but they seem to be related with active storage, which I'm not using at the moment, so I'm not too concerned. Detecting Rails configuration failed. Not sure why that would be the case. Let's see. Seems to be running. Nice. So I create a user account in there, and maybe even I'll import some data, and then we'll have a staging environment. That's brilliant. Okay, so first success for the day. I guess we can count this as the issue finished. Well, let's retroactively fix the user story here. As a developer, I'd like to deploy the application to a staging website where I can test it in a production-like environment. That was the goal, and set up deployment to Heroku as 7 Jupyter staging. And with that, we can close this issue. Good stuff. So now let's do some cleanup and get rid of these resource stuff. For that, we'll need a branch, because this will require code changes. Mostly changes that will be prefixed with a dash, because they are taken away. The diff will be very red. So it's number 14. I'm always using the issue number as the branch prefix, and then we'll call it RM resource. And I guess we can simply go ahead and delete stuff. So let's take a look at code here. Let's start with the models. We'll delete everything that's named resource something, and we'll remove the provider. App models resource and app models provider, leaving us with application record and heads no server, and user. Yep, that's correct. So let's do the same for the controllers. Resource and providers. That's that. Then let's go ahead and clean up the views directory. App views everything resources and app views providers. Leaving us with application heads and servers, homepage, layouts and pages. Huh, interesting. I've just discovered this pages directory, and I think I've probably duplicated existing logic here. I've simply created a homepage controller that displays these homepage views, And I guess I don't even need that. I can simply use the pages stuff that's already built in. The thing is, I haven't created this application from a bare Rails framework, but I've used the suspenders repository or command that's provided by Thoughtbot, and they've taken Rails and added a lot of additional gems that usually they use in their web development projects, and this pages stuff seems to be one of them, because every website has static pages, and so I might even be able to get rid of the homepage controller here, my homegrown thing, and simply rely on what they've already added to Rails there. Okay, let's keep an issue for this. New issue. Okay, home pages controller, duplicates existing functionality. We'll label this with cleanup. Let's verify that my suspicion is right. So Thoughtbot suspenders, here's the repository, and here they list what they've built in. High voltage for static pages, and high voltage again allows you to do some static pages. Yep, and they use the app views pages here, and I simply add ERB templates there. And then I can simply set up a route to this page, and that's it. Okay, yep. Oh, they've built this themselves. Yeah, why not? I should have expected that. Okay. Rendering static pages is already built in via high voltage. High voltage static, get it? Okay. We can get rid of the rudimentary home pages controller. Okay. I guess that'll be the next cleanup job, but let's stick with what we've been doing. So, views are gone. That leaves all the testing stuff. So we'll have to get rid of controller tests and model tests, and I guess and factories. That's it. Why isn't factories a directory? Huh, okay, it's a single file. Interesting. So that's taken care of, and everything else will be deleted by git rm. Spec controllers resource stuff and spec controllers providers controller. Spec models resource stuff and spec models provider. That should be it. Let's see if things still run. So I'll have to spin up my development Docker containers. Docker isn't running yet. How likely am I to recommend Docker desktop to a friend or coworker at the moment? 8 or 9. I'm pretty happy with it. The only problems I do have are memory problems, but I don't think that's where Docker is to blame. Well, let's give them a 9. Yeah, I've already ordered additional RAM chips to upgrade my machine here from 16 to 32 gigabytes. Docker still spinning up. Yeah, I do have memory problems because it looks like sometimes things are piling up, and I actually got operating system pop-ups. You're out of memory, and I ran right into that, didn't I? You know, I can take this VIP badge from you again. But you're right, yeah. My own memory isn't the best as well, but it has never been. I really got used to always writing things down because my mind is all over the place, thinking about stuff, and so as soon as something crosses my mind, I know that I need to write it down. Otherwise, it'll be gone within minutes. Let alone days. The only thing I remember then is there was something. I had an idea about something, and I don't know what this idea was. And look at that. You have memory problems yourself, and even you're even only in your 20s. Well, I don't think that's something you need to worry about, to be honest and serious. Sometimes it's simply a matter of preference. I'm very pragmatic in these things, and so I simply decide not to memorize stuff that I can look up again or that I've written down. It's a very liberating feeling, actually, to know, okay, all the important stuff is stored somewhere outside of my brain, and I can retrieve it anytime I like, but I don't have to think about it. Yeah, selective memory, basically. That's the core idea, or one of the core ideas in GTD, getting things done, for example. Write stuff down so you don't have to memorize it, because that machine up there, that's for thinking and not for storage. And I'd rather use my grey matter for creative stuff instead of simply memorizing things. Okay, Docker should be spun up. So Docker compose up. Nice. It's like when you get 15 tasks at one time and you're 8. Yeah. It sounds a bit like task overload, to be honest, but that's what a good project management or task management system is for. At my company, we use Asana, for example, to track everything that we'd like to do. If it's very code-centric, we use GitHub issues, but even they get duplicated as Asana tasks, so we can track who's working on what at the same time. And the main job is getting these systems to work, so you can be sure that everything that needs to be done is stored in your system and not stored in someone's brain alone and gets lost when they get hit by a bus or something. It's really worth the time working on getting this system watertight, and then you can simply lean back and say, I don't know what I'm going to do next, but my task management system does, and I can look it up anytime I want. Okay, so Docker is running, and we should nuke the database. That's what I've built a rake task for. It's a db nuke, so I'll run that rake task inside the app container. Rake db nuke. My next open source product, a cutting edge task management tool. Man, there are so many task management and project management tools out there. I don't want to add to that ecosystem because it's totally overrun. And many of them are very, very decent. There's Basecamp, Asana, Trello. They all have their own ideas how to go about things, and all I can recommend is trying them out and see what works for you, because oftentimes that's a very individual thing. Uninitialized constant provider. Yeah, of course it is, because my seed file that sets up the development database tries to create a provider, and it'll also try and create resource stuff. So we'll have to strip this down. No resource attributes. We'll need to create a user. No providers, no resource types, no droplets. We could create a few Hetzner servers, but we'll do that later, as soon as we need it. Yeah, but you have hit quite the mark, because server management application and to-do application actually are my favorite, or were my favorite goals in developing stuff. But yeah, task management software, there's lots of that out there, but in terms of unified IT resource management stuff, there's probably a lot of enterprisey commercial software available, things from IBM and BMC and stuff, but I haven't seen a lot of open source stuff in that area. Not that there isn't any. I have to admit I didn't look very thoroughly, simply for the fact that I needed something to do here on the stream, and I don't care if there are 10 other things doing the same. But I have one sandbox project here now, and I don't need another. Okay, so that's that. Let's run rake tests, or rake, to see if the remaining tests still work. So let's look ahead. If I'd like to clean up the home page controller stuff, I can simply move the views, right? I simply move the index HTML to pages, and I'll have to then change the routes file. Oh, which needs to be cleaned as well. There we go. And I've recently discovered I shouldn't run Rubocop in the Rails mode for the whole application directory, because there might be things in spec or lib that aren't Rails related and shouldn't adhere to Rails style. So we'll run Rubocop in the Rails mode simply on app, and that's it. And maybe also on spec. And since we are about doing things cleanly, I'll add a new issue for this. Rubocop runs in Rails mode for everything. While not everything needs to have Rails rules applied. That's the issue. It's a testing issue. I really wonder why Rubocop is the part of the test suite that takes the longest to run. Takes ages to launch, even though it then goes through the few remaining files very quickly. You also have to get rid of these things. That's an issue as well, I guess. We'll have to replace the pending RSpec examples. Which is another testing issue. Okay, so now tests are running fine. We have lots of deleted stuff and lots of changed stuff. But that's okay. Let's commit this. Remove resource and provider logic. Why is this change necessary? We made the decision on the data model much too early. Try to build the groundwork for things we don't even see completely yet. Let's cross these bridges when we reach them. This resolves issue number 14. Okay, so another thing that I always do the same way is if I'd like to merge a branch into master, I always create a pull request, even though, even in the case that I want to merge this thing right away without having to wait for code review by someone else, having these pull requests as historical artifacts helps to see who did what at what point in time. So I'll go ahead and create a pull request from this using the same commit message. I'll just remove the carriage returns here, and I'll assign myself to this pull request. And this branch has no conflicts with the base branch. I haven't set up CI yet, so I don't have to wait for CI runs to run. I simply trust that my tests have been successful here. And I'll go ahead to merge this pull request, and voila, our code is much cleaner now without having these things that were already legacy code after a few days. Good. What else do we have? Let's get rid of that home pages controller. Oh, I've set up another Git alias which is called delete branch, and I can simply say delete 14 RM resource, and it'll delete it both on GitHub and locally on my machine. If I first go ahead and pull my master branch. Okay. Now let's go ahead and create a new branch, number 15. 15 home pages. So we can remove the home pages controller, and we can git move the home page index to pages, and then we'll just go ahead and change the routes to the root routes to page index. And let's put this on top here. I don't have any integration tests yet that actually run the website and then try to send it requests, so I'll have to go ahead and try the development version here. And it actually does not work. Initialize constant page controller. Yeah, it's pages, right? So no, it doesn't work with pages. Why doesn't it? Okay, high voltage / pages, and then /pages ID in the view file name, so it's pages /index. Oh, root route to a high voltage page like this. High voltage configure, config home page. We'll do that in an initializer. Okay. Nice. Good. Let's create this. Config initializer. Do we already have a home page, high voltage initializer? No, not. High voltage.rb. Is that right? We'll even name it home. Or should we name it index? Naming thing is hard. Yeah, I'll call it index. So, I'm not sure the initializer didn't get run. I'll have to restart the app container. As soon as it is back up. If it comes back up. Here we go. Took quite a while. Oh, we don't have a home view now. Oh no, it's called index, so that should be okay. Why didn't it render though? Oh, here we go. No, we don't have any providers, resources, or resource types, so let's fix the view itself. That hasn't been updated. Views. Homepage can go now. Views. Homepage. That's RMD. And this one here goes to Hetzner servers. Let's see if it works. The list is empty, but it works. Nice. Good stuff. Okay. Well, that's it. And this resolves number 15. Let's go ahead and run tests again. By the way, is the volume of the music okay for you? I've reduced it a bit, so it's not too distracting, but I can even reduce it even further. No complaints? Happy to hear it. Oof! No homepages controller. Yeah, of course. Let's get rid of the specs as well. Spec controller, homepage controller. See, that's why you run tests before you push or even create a pull request. Yes, and my new streaming software game show seems to be running very stable as well. It also displayed me an update dialog right before the stream, but I said, you will not trick me, and cancelled the upgrade. I'll do that after the stream. not falling for this again after OBS completely crashed on me and even got me a community violation complaint by YouTube. Which they upheld, by the way. I appealed the community violation with the reasoning that I was able only to send or stream my coming soon screen, and then the software crashed on me. So it wasn't intentional streaming of my Twitter account or something like that. The software simply crashed before I could start the stream. But they upheld the community violation. Well, that's the thing with YouTube. You can't really tell why they strike you with these things. They don't go into detail, and while you can appeal and state your case, it's still up to them if they accept it or not. In my case, they did not accept it. Of course, they didn't add any reason, so there is no liability. Well, okay, I don't care. My game show application here can't stream to restream.io anyway, so I can't stream simultaneously to Twitch and YouTube. And streaming on Twitch is fine. I don't have to be streaming to YouTube as well. I can still upload my recorded sessions to YouTube after the fact. So, no big deal. There was a YouTube musician who got hit with a copyright strike. Oh, I can imagine. Because another YouTuber was ripping off his music and claiming it as their own. Yeah. I've seen this as well. Yeah, I remember it. I discovered the BBC News ticker intro music, which is a very nice synth song, and someone did a compilation of this intro music over the years, starting from I think starting with the 1980s or something, and then going through the years up until now, how the BBC News intro music has changed. And I think he got struck with a copyright violation as well, because someone did the same as you described. He then uploaded the thing to Vimeo, and yeah. Let me see. What's that link? Yeah. The copyright he had apparently infringed upon was his own. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure that YouTube is doing a very good job with these things. But that's not a major concern in my case. Okay, tests are fine. Let's simply commit this as well. Removed. Home pages, controller spec. Let's do another pull request, this time from the shell. The trouble is, although I'm not big on these content creators, you can see that there are a lot of so-called content creators who just share someone else's video and assume that constitutes original content. Yeah. That's a very shitty thing to do, to be honest. So now we have a reference here from my pull request. No conflicts, so let's merge this as well. Check out master, pull the merged stuff. I'm using the smart pull, the git smart gem here. This gem decides if it's going to do a classic fetch and merge or if it's going to do a rebase. It's like when you look at these YouTube gamers, how many people are watching them for the games themselves versus how many people are watching them for the gamer themselves. Yeah, I can relate. I watch a lot of World of Warcraft stuff, and while I'm interested in how the game is played by professional players, I still select my streams. I'm very selective in terms of who I watch, because there are people who, for example, play the same character class as I do, but they are boring or, well, yeah, for some reason not very enticing to watch, and so I don't watch them. Others do not play my class, so I can't learn much for my class specifically, but they are very good and explain things, and so I do watch the streams for the people more than I do for the game. Okay, that's this done as well. So we have testing, models not annotated. That's another thing that's easy to do. And we still have a bit of time on the stream, so let's see. Rails Best Practices is a nice website with a lot of collected knowledge of the Rails community, and they actually suggest using the annotate gem, which updates a comment section at the top of each file that lists the database setup for this model. And of course this is handy to see, okay, what does this model actually have in terms of attributes. And while you could look things up in the schema.rb file, it's very hard to scroll through there or find stuff. So it's handy to have this automatically at the top of each relevant file. I have to admit that I had my doubts, because every single database change causes a lot of files to change, basically every file that is affected by the change, and I got a bit annoyed by all these changes, but on the other hand, yeah, I can see the point that it's very handy to see what methods are available on which model. Since these methods are auto-generated from the database, you don't have any code for this. So for example, in this model here, there's a body and a title attribute, but your model class doesn't have a title or body method. They get auto-generated. So having this comment up there reminding you of what the attributes and therefore the methods are actually called is very handy. What we'll do, therefore, is add the annotate gem to our gem file. In the development section. Oh, let's create a branch again. That's number 12. annotate, and then go ahead and change the gem file. Here we do have the development section, and the annotate gem goes right to the top because I keep them in alphabetical order. That's that. Then, after installing it, we can simply call annotate. To annotate just your models. Oh, that's an interesting idea. I like that. So it only updates the model files. That's sufficient. I don't need the factories annotated as well, because that is the craft that I was annoyed by. Okay, so let's run bundle install. That's that. And now we'll do annotate, exclude texts, tests, fixtures, factories, serializers. Let's see what does get annotated then. Unable to annotate app models user or has a server could not translate host name Postgres to address. Okay, we'll have to run it in the Docker container then. DC exec app. Hey Domson, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. You come here for one serious question. What is DevOps? Your confusion just increased. What is DevOps? That's a bit of a contentious question because it depends on who's answering it. But in my case, I'd say DevOps is where development engineers and operations engineers come together to build a single, what's called value stream, from the idea of an application to the daily operation of an application. So idea, design, development, deployment, fixing bugs and all that stuff until the application goes out of order or out of operation again, maybe many years later. So what DevOps changed from my perspective is back in the bad old days, developers built their stuff, threw it over the wall to the ops people who were running the servers and the applications on these servers, and said, okay, development is done, check mark, project phase of development is finished, I've done my work, I have built everything that was described in the specification, so I'm out, have fun. And now operations people were left with all the operational stuff, providing the resources the application needed, and many of these specifications weren't even documented, so you didn't know how much memory does this application need, does this application create high CPU load, or is it more a memory hog, or does it do high disk I/O? All that stuff that us operations people have to deal with. And so operations people needed to go back to the developers and tell them, well, your application isn't running right, it crashes all the time, or things like that. And what the developer said, well, I'm already on another project, so you'll have to talk to some kind of project manager that will then maybe approve that I spend a few more hours going after your bugs or something like that. And it was more dev and ops working against each other than working together with the common business goal of keeping that fucking application online. And so DevOps is providing us with a lot of tools and processes and things so that development and operations can work together with that common goal in mind. Helping with actually setting up, running the app, not only developing it. Yeah, that's right. It's because development doesn't end when the application gets deployed to production. Many companies that take DevOps seriously even give the pagers or the pager duty to developers, because you write it, you run it, and that might include getting up at night and fixing memory issues or other things that in the past operations people were struggling with. You get woken because your application has crashed, you get up, stumble to your computer, check the logs, see the application has run out of memory. There's nothing you can do about it because you're not the developer of the application, and so you restart the app hoping that it'll hold this time and go back to bed, and maybe half an hour later it'll page you again. So it might even make sense to give pagers to developers or make them more opsy people, so they actually care about the production environment as well, and not only their development environment. The core idea behind DevOps is that our job, regardless if we are developers or operations people, is to keep our business applications running. And DevOps thinks about how we can work together efficiently to make this, to achieve this. Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Thompson. Thanks for following, and I hope to see you again when I'm back on Thursday, because we are almost out of time here. So let's oh yes, of course, annotate isn't available inside the container because we didn't run bundle install. I can run bundle install inside this running container now, and I'll have to do a Docker build later. But let's first see what annotate actually does annotate. It did annotate the models, and only the models. I like it. Let's take a look at the result. Here's the heads of server class, and I can see the actual attributes, name, product, status, data center and stuff, and the user with its email and encrypted password and stuff, middle name, first name, last name. Love it. Okay, that is sufficient. Add annotate gem. Not much to comment there. I'll simply reference the issue, which is number 12. I don't expect any test failures here. I would be very surprised if adding comments would cause test failures. However, Rubocop might have some ideas about formatting comments and stuff, so I'm not 100% sure that my test will be successful. Because writing comments is a style issue as well. But yeah, I'm not worried. I'm running out of tea, which is another sign that I'll have to end the stream soon. Oh well, I didn't do spectacular things today, but it was some necessary cleanup, which was successful, and left us with better code, less craft, less technical debt. And we have our staging application running on Heroku, so there is actually something we have to show for the time I've spent in this session. What I can do is deploy my staging application to production as well. Let's go to the pipeline here. We've successfully started the staging application, and I can actually deploy this to production. Wait a minute. I completely forgot about the necessary database. Do we have a database in the first place? Don't think so. Oh, yeah. It got deployed automatically. Okay, fine. Yeah, that was the part with the proc file. Okay, so I should be able to... Let's try it. Let's see what happens if I do promote to production. Promotion to production will occur without rebuilding the source slug. Let's see. It is released. Completed successfully. Okay, see? Rubocop actually had some complaints. Namely, there are blank lines that it doesn't like. In line 19. In both cases, models. Yeah. So we have two empty lines where Rubocop only wants one empty line. I think we can remedy this. Yeah. Okay. So let's run all tests again. Let's take a look at this application. See, it didn't install any add-on. I think we'll have to run at least one initial build here. But that's easy to do. I can simply add this as my production URL, git remote add production, and then I do a git push production master. In this case, the annotate branch, but I don't care, to be honest. As long as it creates my production database, I'm happy. I think it looks like it did not start the worker dyno, because it runs with the free dyno at the moment, but I do have a paid Heroku account, so I can upgrade that if I want to. Once again, of course, okay, I'll have to set the environment variables again to be able to run this. Well, it's still busy doing Robocop here, so I'll go ahead and do these things. So we'll need the SMTP. Let's take a look at the environment again. SMTP address. smtp.sendgrid.net. The SMTP domain. The SMTP user. I use dummy values for the time being. Username. And the SMTP password. I'll just have to have these settings in place to be able to deploy. Okay, my tests ran fine, so let's commit this. This should display a reference from the commit. Okay, and let's create a pull request as well, as I always do. And not say models resolves number 12, right? Yeah. That's why I have the issue number in the branch name, so I can easily find the issue this is dealing with. I'll assign myself, create the pull request, and even merge the pull request. Now I can go ahead and it actually did deploy the application. Nice. So let's see. Application error. Probably because I haven't set up the database yet, right? But I can investigate this later. That's nothing I have to do now. for the annotation to work, I should also run annotate install. Edit this file to control things like output formats and enrich artifacts. That's a rake file. That's what does the automatic annotation, so I don't have to run the annotate command all the time. So, okay. Now I've already have merged the pull request. Well, I can still do this in here. DCXic app rails generate annotate install. I'll simply merge this manually then. I had this nagging feeling I was missing something, and that was the automatic annotation. So now we have a rake task that I can adapt. Okay. Exclude tests. True. Fixtures. True. Factories. True. Serializers. True. Scaffolds? No, but well, yeah, exclude scaffolds, controllers, helpers, STS subclasses. I might want to keep them. Ignore model subtier. No. Okay. Format Markdown. I do like Markdown. So let's switch from Bear to Markdown. Let's see what happens. So, sort. No, I don't need to sort them. Do I need to sort them? No, I don't. Okay. So, what kind of job do I run here? Rake auto annotate? Well, let's see. Rake -T. Ooh, lots of stuff. It's probably up there. Annotate models, annotate routes. That's the route map. Well, let's leave it in, but I'll have to see what this does. So DCXic app, rake annotate models. I'm running a bit over time now, but yeah, I guess I can finish this off stream as well. Let's see what changed. Oh, it did sorry. Let me take a look at my phone. I am getting alerts here. Nothing serious. Okay. Yeah, that's decent. I like it better than the other version. Okay. So let's add this. Add annotate rake job. And now I go ahead and let's first pull what I've already merged, then merge the rest. Push it. Now we can delete the branch. Which should leave another issue done. Nice. Okay, so let's wrap it up here. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope it was interesting and you had some fun. I surely did. I'll be back on Thursday. That's at least what I'm planning, even though it's the final week that I'm at work this year. So there might be things that come in the way, but I'll try and do a session on Thursday at the same time as always. It's 3:30 p.m. GMT. If I have to drop out, I'll send a tweet on my Twitter account at fullstacksensei. Please go ahead and follow me on Twitter. Please also go ahead and subscribe to the stream and subscribe to my YouTube account, where I'm going to upload the recording of this session. And so I hope to see you again on Thursday. If I don't, have a great time between the years, and I'll see you then back in January. Back in January. Until then, take care.